as I've become more seasoned, I realized that their stories were never documented. And so that was a big inspiration for me. I want to honor and celebrate the women who came before me and also document stories of impactful women business owners. And this is what the North Carolina Women Business Owners Hall of Fame does. We're a nonprofit organization. This is our 8th year. So with this class of inductees, we have 54 total inductees to the Hall of Fame. This includes women now of all ages, all cultures from all over the state. And I want younger girls and women to see the stories and to know that they can do anything and they can be business owners and they can be leaders in the community.
Welcome to Success Reimagined. I am Dr. Amna Shabbir, your host on this journey to thrive at the intersection of ambition and wellness. In every episode, I'll help you challenge outdated definitions of success, discover practical tools and strategies for growth without compromising your well-being. I am so glad you've joined me. Let's reimagine what's possible together.
Today's guest is a branding expert, creative strategist, and passionate advocate for women in business. Wendy Coulter is the founder and CEO of the Hummingbird Creative Group, a branding agency that helps businesses from healthcare to manufacturing build authentic, strategic, and unforgettable brands. She's also the founder and chair of the North Carolina Women Business Owners Hall of Fame, celebrating the impact of women entrepreneurs across the state. With decades of experience and a gift for storytelling, Wendy brings insight, purpose, and creativity to everything she touches. Wendy, welcome to the podcast. I'm so excited to dive into your journey today.
Thank you, Amna. You make me sound so good. I need that bio. Thank you. That was amazing. I'm so excited to be on with you today.
Thank you. So I'm going to start right from the incredible company name that you have, Hummingbird Creative Group. Why the hummingbird? What does it represent for you and the work that you do?
Sure. Well, so the hummingbird goes back very, very far to days in high school and a friend. I was in a lot of different friend groups. I didn't really have a clique. I knew everybody. And so my friend called me a hummingbird. And I thought that was really cool. I do have a lot of energy and found myself to be pretty unique in terms of being a creative person. And so that nickname stuck at a young age. And I just felt like those were great qualities for a designer, which is my background. As I imagined growing the freelance business that I had started into an agency, I felt like there were so many great hummingbird qualities we could personify. And honestly, where it is today is so much further on a hummingbird path than where I imagined. But starting out, I always said hummingbirds fly forwards, backwards, upside down, and sideways. And that's what I wanted to do for customers. And so as we're working with businesses to build their business value through branding, we're really looking at all the different ways to fly for them and help them take flight. Hummingbirds are super territorial, and so that ties into branding as well. It's perfect because we help our customers find their differentiation in the marketplace and tell those stories that you were talking about to mark their territory. And then a fun one is a group of hummingbirds is called a charm. And we created our charm awards, and those honor our team members when they live our core values, which is really important to me in the business. And then finally, we're about to launch a masterclass on branding that we call Nectar. And, nectar fuels hummingbirds and gives them energy. And that's what we're trying to do with our masterclass. So it just goes on and on and on. But we love what the hummingbird has been able to help us do from a marketing and branding standpoint for our own company.
That is so energizing to hear. And I can, your drive towards and to serving your clients is just so apparent. It's palpable. It's in the room. That's what I'm trying to say here.
Thank you.
Yeah. And so you just celebrated a really big birthday for the company. Share about that.
Birdie turned 30. Yes. 30 years in business, which is crazy. I was very young when I started my business. I was one of the youngest entrepreneurs I knew at the time. And so it was very humbling. A lot of people showed up for a big party we held a few weeks ago, and just amazing to still be tied to a lot of people who knew me at a very young age in the business. So
That is
really fun.
incredible. So
Thank you.
remarkable to have 3 decades of experience. And, you know, I'm just going to go pivot a little bit more and get double click on this experience that you've had because you've seen so many businesses grow and then struggle through their branding. So if I was to ask you, what are 3 of the biggest branding or marketing mistakes you've seen businesses make today, what would you say to that?
Yeah, so that one's pretty easy for me because I'm in the middle of it, right? Whenever we bring in a new client, it's pretty obvious their top struggles. One is many companies do not know how they differentiate. They might even tell me, well, we don't have any competitors or we don't know who our competitors are. And so when you don't know your competitive landscape, you do not have any idea how you differentiate. And that's a big piece of what we do to help because that's what's really going to fuel the stories and fuel the brand. Also, the second thing is that they haven't really listened to the voice of their customers and prospects. And so voice of the customer is like this. In the marketing world, everyone knows what voice of the customer is. But in the general business world, people don't have any idea the power of having a third party reach out to your customers and ask them questions about why they chose you, what makes you unique, what words they would use to describe you. And that can create this amazing vocabulary for marketing that just pushes you to a new level. And so I'd say voice of the customer is a second thing. But then I think the thing that we see the most is people getting stuck in this idea that they have to implement everything. We have to do social media this many times, and we have to post to all of the platforms. We have to send out email. We have to do SEO. We have to do SEM, but they haven't analyzed the why. They're just implementing those tactics. And so telling the business owner or the marketing leader in the company, let's take a step back to strategy. Let's take a step back to setting goals and how we're going to measure whether these things that you're doing all the time are really going to have results that drive sales or drive evaluation or change a company culture. Like, what kind of effect are we looking for these things to do? And I just don't think everybody's just caught up in the day to day activities of marketing. And it's really easy to just keep it going and keep doing the stuff and not really analyze if it makes sense to the business goals.
Those are wonderful reflections because I can truly, I've been there myself. There's so much, there's enough to keep you busy and distracted, enough shiny objects. You get online and there are all these things. And in a way, you're so overstimulated all the time. And then you probably are 1 millimeter advancing in like 10 different directions instead of having forward momentum.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. You can really just stay still by keeping too busy with marketing tactics. It's easy to do things that don't drive results.
So if we were to like change that a little bit and ask you, what advice, because you've been on this amazing journey, as you look back, what's a piece of advice you wish somebody had given you earlier and probably would have propelled you even further than you're at right now?
Yeah, I mean, I think that I'm an entrepreneur like every other entrepreneur, and I have needed to take some of the advice that I give people today. So, one piece of advice that I think would have been really helpful to me, and part of this is just because who I am, would have been to slow down and think more and ask deeper questions about what I really wanted to do with the business. I am an implementer. It took me a very long time to admit that I am strategic because I didn't believe I was. I believed I just got a lot of things done really fast. And along the way, though, I was really starting to use strategy in my implementation, and people saw that in me. And so now I try to slow down and think more, ask those deep questions, and give my team that advice as well, because I think also I have younger team members and their brain can go a million miles an hour and they can, they say we can't multitask. I've learned as an older person in the workforce that it is much harder for me to multitask, but younger people can jump from thing to thing a little bit faster and easier. And I try to remind them to slow down because it's really hard in the marketing field to take a beat and revisit the goals and make sure things stay on track. And I've become more focused on my future. What does my business need to look like in the less years I have in front of me than the number of years I have behind me? So I'm more focused on that future and how to get there and not so stuck in the daily task at hand. And I wish I would have done that. And then I think, Amna, being around you, we've talked about adventure and you kind of planted, an idea with me around this idea of adventure. Entrepreneurship is adventure, and we have to begin with understanding that business ownership is going to always be an adventure. And no matter how long I'm at it, every day is still a different day. So people ask me, like, how do I balance all the things I do? Because I'm a mom of a teenager and I run a business and I have the Hall of Fame, which I know we're going to talk about, which is my nonprofit. And I serve on boards and I'm active in the community. And then, oh yeah, I have a husband at home that I need to talk to every now and then. But for me, I say I'm along on this amazing ride and I try not to get focused in on the problems and the issues, which sometimes is hard for any of us. But just like looking at this great journey and entrepreneurship, even though it has ups and downs, we've got to take those moments to celebrate. I ring bells in the office when we win a new customer. We give the awards that I talked about, the Charm Awards, to the team. And I think we have to celebrate that adventure and kind of where we're going every day. So that would be another great piece of advice.
Your office seems like a very fun place to be. Let's just first say that and acknowledge it. And secondly, yeah, I love it when other entrepreneurs, especially entrepreneur women, can model how they have openly kind of discuss how challenging it is to balance all these roles, and yeah, looking at it through this lens of adventure, that it's always sort of a roller coaster ride. And are
Mhm.
you going to enjoy it, or are you going to be more in the landscape of fear and vomiting versus you're just like really leaning into that. I love that, Wendy. Thank you for sharing. So
Absolutely.
you mentioned about the Hall of Fame, and you founded the North Carolina Women Business Owners Hall of Fame. It has become such a meaningful platform. What inspired you to create that, and what's the impact you're hoping to continue to get from it?
Yeah, there's so much inspiration. When I started my business, like I said earlier, I was 24 years old. I was out in the community networking. I was one of the youngest people that I would meet, or not that I would meet, but I was one of the youngest people networking. And I found myself in rooms with these amazing women who were growing tremendous businesses for the time. And as I've become more seasoned, I realized that their stories were never documented. And so that was a big inspiration for me. I want to honor and celebrate the women who came before me and also document stories of impactful women business owners. And this is what the North Carolina Women Business Owners Hall of Fame does. We're a nonprofit organization. We have board members across the state, from the Triangle to the Triad to Charlotte to Rocky Mount and even Oriental, North Carolina, so Eastern North Carolina. This is our 8th year. So with this class of inductees, we have 54 total inductees to the Hall of Fame. This includes women now of all ages, all cultures, from all over the state. And we're going to be celebrating them on Saturday, November 8th at the Umstead in Cary, so in my hometown. Not where I was born, but I've been here the longest, so I'm going to call it my hometown. And I just think it's amazing to document these stories. We have a great website with videos of all of these women. But part of this is for the younger generations, right? So I have a 16-year-old. I want younger girls and women to see the stories and to know that they can do anything and they can be business owners and they can be leaders in the community. And so, as far as future impact goes, we're continuing to bring these women in front of more rooms to tell their stories. So, examples of that are we're active with the Women's Business Center of North Carolina. And so, you'll see our women on panels at Women Business Center events. We're about to do a panel at the Cary Chamber event this year. We've done Med Week several years running. And I see an opportunity to expand that to even more events. And then the other thing that's kind of in my back pocket right now is something the board has been talking about for a very long time, which is figuring out community initiatives to more permanently honor the inductees across the state. We don't have the plan completely together for that yet, and it's going to take some fundraising, but I think I'd like to see the women acknowledged in the towns that they're from or in the towns where their businesses are, where they do business in some more permanent fashion. So we're working on those ideas. Lots of ideas on a nonprofit board, which is really energizing all the time.
I see this hummingbird energy just 360 degrees, Wendy. This is incredible. And as you kind of started this process, you have this vision clearly, and the vision is grand and it's ongoing, and you're honoring so many women in this process. What were some of the hurdles that you faced? I'm sure this was not a walk in the park.
And so specifically with Hall of Fame
Yep.
or
Yeah.
in
So you can
business?
pick the Hall of
Yeah.
Fame, or even like just, reflecting large, being a woman in business and, with this vision that you have.
Yeah, so I think I will talk about some hurdles that we face as women briefly. I think we've heard a lot of them, but for me, coming into the business community very young, there were amazing women, but there were a lot of hurdles to getting funding. There were hurdles to being respected in the business community. I will say that both men and women have opened doors for me and been amazing supporters. And so, I think from where I sit today, I think as a woman in business, I've embraced the relationships I have with the women who came before me and paved the way. And I also embrace the relationships that I have with men who lead, who open the doors for us and let us have that seat at the table that we so greatly need. And I think that I've watched the world become a better place for women leaders and really embrace us most recently. And I love that that's opened the door for Hall of Fame to be able to embrace women leaders and really bring that to the forefront. And so many also, it's not just about women and the diversity of women, but it's about women who lead community initiatives, women who are very active in chambers of commerce and business organizations, women who lead in the realm of Rotary or, civic organizations, women with disabilities, women of all different cultures. We've all had our own challenges and we face them as women, which is amazing, with grace and style and um, humility and just the wonderful things that make us women. And we are overcoming every day. And I just love to be a big part of that. The Hall of Fame has taken me to a different place in the community because I champion women business owners, and that's what people see me as. And sometimes that's still a challenge. I went into a sales meeting just a couple of years ago and heard from the director of marketing that the CEO wondered if championing women businesses was just like all I was about. And I didn't even mention it during the sales call. He had found information about it on LinkedIn. And I think he might have thought that I was too focused on women in the way that I put myself out there. But I don't believe that's possible. So there we are.
Staying true and aligned, and really like so much goodness there, Wendy. Like, even if that conversation came through, I love how you handled that
Yeah.
specifically. And I am one of the women in our local community in the Triangle region of North Carolina who's reaping the benefits of your amazing work and of those of other incredible women that have championed and created spaces that are inclusive of women of all backgrounds, other minorities. And so that is something to be celebrated and acknowledged. So thank you for that. Absolutely.
Absolutely.
I want to shift focus a little bit more again, and I want to ask you, so the name of the podcast is Success Reimagined, and I want to ask you, how have you reimagined success for yourself, especially as with all these roles that you've had from someone who is an entrepreneur starting early, creative to founder to community leader at this point and
Yeah.
mom?
So I reimagine success like every minute of every day. So it's kind of hard for me to bucket it too much, but I will just say, like, I am a change agent. I love change. And if I didn't love change, I would not be able to be an entrepreneur. And I don't think I would see success, right? And success has a different meaning for everyone. So there have been times in my life when success meant, what were the annual sales of my business this year? There have been times in my life when success meant, oh my gosh, I was chosen to be the chair of the local Chamber of Commerce here in Cary. There was the success of me being inducted into the Hall of Fame that I did not even expect. And so success comes with a lot of levels. And then there's success in my family and being a role model to my daughter. But on every level, that means change. And I've always embraced change. I love learning new things. And I look for that in the people I surround myself with. As a creative, like just a creative, my professional life was pretty short lived. And I found myself adding a first employee within just a year of beginning to freelance as a designer. And those early days as a creative were really only about learning new things and reimagining things every day, staying on top of trends in the industry. And back then, that was like setting type, like meaning cutting out letters and setting type or taking film to press. Really slow lead times on work. I'd have to tell customers it would take 2.5 weeks to get their print jobs. Today we can throw something on a press and have a print job out in a matter of hours. And then I think as a creative, we were criticized a lot, and critique was a way of life in the creative space back in those days. I think as far as reimagining a business and a branding agency, it's always been important to me to be around people. And I think collaboration is a new thing that we talk about all the time that I was always looking for because, getting critiqued as a creative is one thing, but being a part of a collaborative group of people who solve problems in the marketing space is so fulfilling. And again, like being a role model to younger women in the field, I've always had younger women on my team. And that's helped me reimagine success over and over again. I have so many friends, like just this week, I've been around people in business who've been in business a long time like me, and they are complaining about having employees and they just want to consult and not be around a team. And I am not in that place. Like, I love the time I spend with my team. I love to brainstorm with them, work on new projects with clients. I just love to spend time together if we're grabbing, a drink at a brewery or something. And I think as a founder, it's about my team taking ideas and running with it successfully. Those are the things that fulfill me. And then community, like I've been a community leader even when I was young. I always raised my hand and volunteered for things. And it's part of what has helped me grow my business. My business started in the Cary Chamber. It started at NABO. It started at WBON. Those were the places that I was networking really early on. And so I would volunteer for committees and I would do things. I think the reimagination of that today is that I want to step into an organization more as a leader. So chairing the board of the chamber was a a big high note, and it'll always be amazing to be called a past chair. It gives me a different level of leadership. Leadership with the Hall of Fame, like I said earlier, that's a different level of leadership in the women's business community than I ever could have imagined. Like, I'm reimagining it because I never imagined it to begin with what it would be. And then on a personal note, I had no idea when I had a child 16 years ago how much it would change my business and how serious, I have fun, like how serious it would make me about my business being more successful and putting a different perspective on my purpose, the goals that I have in business. And being a role model to Callie is kind of like a measuring stick for me now. It helps me make clear decisions on where things are going to go next with my business and how I show up in my community, because I want her to see that. And I bring her to the networking events, and I bring her to honor a teacher, for her to see how her teachers at her school are in leadership roles. And just, I think all of those things are so important. And those are the things that are helping me reimagine success, because Callie is now more than half as old as my business is, but that's just a recent thing. And to think about the impact that has had, it's tremendous.
Wow, that was so impactful to hear, Wendy. I can see you redefining success as really embracing change and looking forward to change in all facets of your life. And I'm a girl mom as well, so I see it right now. They're 9 and 6 now. So it's interesting how that really shifts your perspective, not only as a woman entrepreneur, but also as a model. Like, what are you leaving behind for them, and how are you showing up with all the self-doubt that entrepreneurship brings, like their highs, the lows, the imposterism that we carry? How are you showing up in front of them?
Mhm.
Absolutely.
So important.
This has been so wonderful, Wendy. Thank you so much for your time. As we wrap up our conversation, what's one takeaway you would like for our to leave our listeners with? And of course, also please do share where they can learn more about your amazing work, and we'll link to everything in the show notes as well.
So, Amna, I think after 30 years, there's been so many shifts in the way the working world works. Everything from now, a lot of people are, remote and virtual and all of that. We can do this podcast without being in a room together and connect, and that's amazing. But I think one of the shifts that I've really embraced is defining a culture. That's not something I thought of initially. And my biggest goal now is to make sure that my team and the people, whether they're clients or vendors that we associate with, are living core values that align with us. So for us, that's discovery, conviction, adroitness, intimacy, and integrity. And this brings me so much joy to have this amazing culture. And I think business owners who look through a culture lens to plan and set their business goals can achieve so much more than those who don't have that purpose. And so, a strong culture can make such a difference in mindset, which is very important in managing change as a business owner and a community leader. And so I think just being culture focused and understanding and defining core values and looking to live those every day is a key to the success my whole team has, not just my own. And we're all fulfilled by the work we do, and that makes it great to come to work every day. So that would be the thing I'll leave you with, is just, having joy in culture and the work that we do. As far as learning more, so if you want to learn more about how Hummingbird is building business value through better branding, just Google Hummingbird Creative Group and you can find our website and all of our social channels. And I think you'll put that in the show notes as well. You mentioned, I think earlier, that I host a podcast myself. It's called The Hummingbird Effect. And we're focused on how small changes in marketing can make unexpected changes happen in other areas of a business, whether that's increased valuation, launching new products or services, or culture shifts. So look up hummingbird-effect.com or find us on all of the podcast channels. You can see information about the North Carolina Women Business Owners Hall of Fame at our website at ncwbohalloffame.org. That's where you'll find all the videos of these amazing women in the community and throughout North Carolina. And then I guess LinkedIn is like the place for all the information where you can find me and the company. We're very, very active on LinkedIn, and you'll see all the updates there. So I really appreciate you letting me come on, Amna. This has been great.
Thank you so much for your insights, Wendy. This has been delightful.
Thank you.
You might believe you don't have the time or energy to focus on yourself, but this is exactly the right time to get serious about your well-being. You don't have to do it all alone. I'm here to help. If you enjoyed this video and are ready to take the next step, head over to dramnashabir.com, where you'll find free resources you can access right away. The website link is below. Let's get started on your path to thriving.